All right, welcome to another episode of the Liberty Block with Mike and Dan. As always, we start off our show, since we're stuck in this one topic, with our toast to Corona. And of course, as we give our toast,
Our standard disclaimer: we are not making fun of this. We know it is a real virus and all. We just feel it's not inappropriate to give tribute to a company that makes a good product and is struggling through this the same as everybody else. And It's 100 degrees here today, so it's a perfect day to have Corona.
It's like 54 here. But yeah, if you got Corona, as we've learned, and we're going to get into today, warm weather, ultraviolet radiation, has an effect. And speaking of that, it has what's called disinfecting effect. Right. So Corona, it's unfortunate. Sunlight and heat.
Sunlight.
Okay. Yeah. So it's unfortunate that the word disinfectant has multiple meanings that are specific to certain situations. But that is going to be the theme of the show. Doubling down on gaslighting and a whole bunch of nonsense about disinfectant. And the sad part is, Dan, we have the tape. We all saw the tape. We all saw for our own eyes what Trump said. And before we get into commentary, folks, let's just roll. Like I've said, we've seen the tape. You've all seen the tape. I don't know why we have to do anything other in terms of commentary than roll the tape. So, folks, here it is.
A question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So, supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning, because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's pretty powerful.
So a reasonable interpretation, Dan, would be off the cuff brainstorming.
On his part,
that's all it sounds like to me.
He's obviously hasn't been trained as a doctor, so he's going off the bits of information that he picks up from them, and he's like, "Hey, you've told me about this, you've told me about that," and he's just kind of brainstorming it. He's rolling with it the way Trump is famous for. The guy doesn't use cue cards or any of that. It's diarrhea of the mouth in one sense, but he just repeats what he's heard. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to even use the fancy medical terms. He's going to be the same. He's going to say, you've told me about this and this and this, and you're going to be checking it, right? And the guy's confirming, we're going to be checking this.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just, he probably, in a dream world, isn't doing any brainstorming up at the podium. He probably isn't going as much off the cuff as he normally does, as he always does. But, he isn't telling people to drink bleach and Lysol.
I didn't get that.
Where in the world are we getting this from?
Well, for the record, that's the first time I've actually heard this. I've been busy this week. I've heard about it through memes, actually. Some of them pretty funny.
Yeah,
but that's the first I heard it, and I don't take it as him saying you should inject yourself. It sounds like he's saying that there are disinfecting methods out there for the human body.
And there are, and we'll get into them. And I'm sure if somebody wants to opine on all of that, they can. If we have any people watching the show tonight who are in the medical field and can talk about the disinfecting effects of certain treatments that you might administer to a patient, that might be internal administration in some way, right? Either through a breathing apparatus, through a pill, through some sort of intravenous treatment. And you talked about the memes, man, and they came pouring in. The left decided to double down on their gaslighting. So let's go through the blue check marks on Twitter. Let's go through the communist cabal that has completely overrun.
What is a blue check mark for the tech ignorant people like me?
Okay, so on Twitter, if Jack Dorsey decides to basically endorse you, Jack Dorsey's the owner of Twitter. He's a fringe communist. He's not a total.
Oh yeah.
Insane communist, but he's a fringe communist, right?
He's a communist that likes money.
He's a communist light. Yeah.
Likes money for him, not for everyone else.
Yep. So there's a whole bunch of famous people on Twitter who get these blue check marks next to their name because they've been verified by Twitter, which really means Jack Dorsey has given an unofficial seal of approval to them. I don't want to go on and get into it. I'm going to give you the most cynical approach to this because screw Jack Dorsey.
I wasn't trolling for a response. I don't use Twitter that much, and I don't know.
I know, and that's excuse my camera here.
I'm sure there's other people watching out there that
which is perfectly understandable. But my explanation is going to be the most cynical one because I hate Twitter.
So that's who we are.
Yeah, that's who we are. So
especially towards leftists like Twitter.
Yeah, so let's do the rundown. Here we go. The makers of Lysol and Dettol are warning people not to use their products to treat COVID-19 after President Trump suggested researchers should try injecting disinfectants into coronavirus patients' bodies. Context matters here. When you provide this is your context, the only reasonable way to interpret what you mean by disinfectant is Lysol and Dettol. So this is the left suggesting. This is the most innocuous case of the left suggesting that Trump said this. Sorry, we got to go up to the next one too. So this is number 2. So from CNN Of course, the objective news source, CNN, of course, it's the Philippines branch, but it's still endorsed by CNN. The company that makes Lysol and Dettol is urging customers not to consume its cleaning products after Trump suggested the possibility of injecting disinfectants to protect people from coronavirus. Context matters. Context is how we determine the definition of your intent, and clearly they're intending to mean Trump said inject Lysol into your system. We just rolled the tape. That isn't true. Let's bring on some more blue check marks. D.L. Hughley, the comedian you forgot about. The comedian you forgot about. If you got mad at Barack Obama for trying to give you health care, but didn't get mad at Trump, this is a total false equivalency, for telling you to ingest Lysol, he didn't tell us. We just rolled the tape. Right? And I'm not going to finish that because
the words inject and disinfectant.
You never heard the word Lysol. The makers of Lysol and Dettol have warned people not to inject themselves with disinfectant as suggested by Donald Trump. This is part of the R politics. This is 24,000 upvotes. 24,000 upvotes. The makers of Dettol and Lysol have warned people not to inject themselves with disinfectant as suggested by Donald Trump. Context matters. These people are talking about Lysol. Donald Trump was not. Here we go. Here's another one from. This is the communist cabal on Reddit's politics page. Now that Trump has suggested we shoot up Lysol, can cable news stop airing this crap? 4,900, and I agree they should stop airing this crap because it winds up just getting gaslit by you schmucks on the left here that aren't willing to engage in good faith. And of course, the king of them all. Here we go. 4,300 shares, 12,000 likes. Me passing out shots of bleach and Lysol to Trump supporters, not only implying and insinuating that Trump actually said this, but also implying and insinuating that Trump supporters believe this and that it is okay to let these people die. This is the disgusting view from the left. And we'll just do one last one.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll just do one last one because it's
back to something I noticed on this one.
Yeah, sorry. This is number 4. I don't know why these aren't in the order that I had them in originally, but this is number 4 because this is from CBS. Yes, CBS. The company that makes Lysol is strongly warning. There we go. Yep, the company that makes Lysol is strongly warning consumers not to inject disinfectants after President Trump suggested it being the injection of Lysol, but is what they're implying here, as a possible coronavirus treatment. And the worst of it all, and Dan, you can jump in right after this. the worst of it all is that it's not just coming from the Twitterati. It's not just coming from idiots in social media. It is coming from folks, the House Majority Leader. Go ahead, Nancy. Oh, excuse me. I have to reset this. Where is my... So let's go back to this one.
Do you need an
Transition
injection of
this
Lysol
away.
into this?
Here we go. Okay, so here we go. This should do it. Why is this not resetting? Well, anyways, here, let me get this.
I want to go back. Who's this Mark Lockwood guy? Do we know him? Why is he important? The one that wants to pass out shots of Lysol on the beach.
So the reason I did that was because it's got 4,300 retweets and 12,000 likes. So he may not be a blue.
I'm wondering, I'm deeply concerned. It says that he's a PhD to be. Does that mean he's like a philosophy doctor to be, or an actual medical doctor to be? Because if
PhD doesn't mean anything to me.
Right. Well, what I wonder is if he's going to be a medical doctor here soon, and he's actually bragging that he's going to be passing bleach and Lysol out to people. I'd be worried about his soon-to-be license and whether that should be protested.
Speaking of Mitch,
Here we go. Okay, so this is Nancy.
An indication. The president is asking people to inject Lysol into their lungs, and Mitch is saying that states should go bankrupt. Speaking of Mitch, what's gotten into him? Well, it's an indication.
Yep. So there's Nancy, folks, our House Majority Leader, saying outright, Trump wanted people to.
Said.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all heard it.
Which he did not say.
Which he did not say. And like you and I, Dan, are libertarians. Did you vote for Trump in 2016?
I had to.
Okay, so you begrudgingly voted for
I'm one of the libertarians that look at the realism of the election. I know you're more of a purist. I didn't.
Not much more, but yeah.
See us having a chance. If it was a miserable candidate like Biden, I probably would, because I think there's actually a pretty good chance now of Trump beating him. But with as close as we knew it was going to be with Hillary, I wasn't going to play that game that cycle.
Yeah. So, like, I voted for Gary Johnson. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. Right, like the way he treats women is. You and I have talked about
Johnson.
This.
Like I said, if it wasn't the Hillary thing, I would have voted for Johnson.
Right, like he is a massively flawed human being and a massively flawed president. Right.
Terrible.
Why the hell do I have to keep defending him? I'm just like nonstop defending this man. I shouldn't have to do this. Like all you guys should have to do on the left is let the tape roll. Let his Twitter account, do your work for you. Or just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Just don't. That's all you have to do in this situation. I mean, and you guys saw the tape tape that we rolled from what Donald Trump actually said here. And I don't know if you guys were paying too much attention, but this is the banner that CNN was airing while he was saying this. Trump dangerously suggests injecting disinfectant as treatment.
Did not say that.
He didn't say that. And it's inconvenient, yes, that certain words have multiple meanings. But
I know we don't have time right now, but I'd like to re-listen to that. I want to hear if he even used the word injecting.
Yeah, we'd have to come back to that.
He talked about getting
internally,
into the
get
body.
it into you. No, I don't think he said the word inject. I'm very sure he didn't say that.
Inject. Yeah.
I'm very sure he didn't say the word inject. I think he said just bring it into the body. By the way, folks at home,
which we're about to talk about.
Yeah, folks at home, if you're watching this, if you like what you're seeing and you want more people to see this, and you want the gaslighting to come to an end, you guys got to share these videos. That's what's going to help out these streams more than anything. Of course, we are available on YouTube too, on my YouTube channel. That's Captain Phoenix, YouTube/C/Captain Phoenix. So you guys can check that out too if you want. So yeah, sharing these videos does more for us than anything. Also, so it's unfortunate that the word disinfectant has multiple meanings, and I haven't vetted this image. But if you guys could just, we're going to come back to that video from Trump. So I am jumping ahead just a little bit. So we'll come back to the here we go again, how the media is treating us. But this is an example from what we can tell. If we haven't vetted this, so this might be bullshit. But for all you dummies out there, that it's as it says, it seems like this to me seems like a pretty I got this from a doctor, so I'm assuming it's true, right? So, this is how you can bring UV disinfectant. Yeah, this is a version of a disinfectant treatment that effectively works internally. It looks like what they're getting, and Elliot, you're in the EMS. And I'm sure he's watching, and maybe Elliot can clue us in on what's going on here. I honestly don't know exactly what's going on here, but I'm guessing it's something along the lines of what's that called when you go in for like a kidney treatment and you get your
dialysis.
blood.
That's what I was just thinking.
It looks like a dialysis.
UV dialysis.
Yeah, it looks kind of like that. Yeah. Right, and I've read up on ozone, using ozone as an internal disinfectant. I don't know how it gets brought in internally. I don't know if that's a UV thing or if that's something you breathe in. But apparently, from what I understand, the breakdown of O3, which is ozone, into O2, which is your breathable oxygen, has a disinfectant effect on certain parts of the body. I don't know if it's certain organ systems or certain organs, but it is an internal disinfectant effect. Right. So yes, there are these things that actually do this. And okay, it was a little bit of vomit of the mouth, and perhaps we're reading into this more than we maybe ought to. But yes, disinfectant has multiple meanings, folks. We don't need to gaslight this. We don't, right? And if you want, here's a crazy thing. If you want to see the real time, how the press has treated this has been just as bad as how social media has treated this. And this is the reporting that was going on. This is the reporting that was going on at the time.
Here we go. The new headline.
Oh, excuse us. Hold on. Apparently, it jumped right to the middle of this.
Here we go.
Again.
Same old group.
So let's see if I can't get this looped. And then, sorry, folks, we'll have to get this started over. Here we go. Let's see if we can bring this in now. Here we go.
After the presentation we just saw about the heat and the humidity, is it dangerous for you to make people think they would be safe by going outside in the heat, considering that so many people are dying in Florida, considering that this virus has had an outbreak in Singapore, places that are hot and are humid?
Here we go. The new headline is Trump asks people to go outside. That's dangerous. Here we go. Same old group.
And what did they do? What did they do? Right? Like, when Donald Trump can perfectly predict your every move, then you've done this wrong. You've done this wrong.
Oh boy.
Right?
Yeah.
Let me do a. Sorry. Let me see if I get this fade right. Oh well. So I would love to see some honest reporting. I don't think that's too much to ask for. And the reaction at the polls is going to. I think the reaction isn't even going to be to the. I think the reason that the base is so motivated right now, that as we talked about last week, has less to do even with Donald Trump than with the way that he's been gaslit, the way that the right has been gaslit. And if you're going to treat us like this, well,
it's a reaction to being treated like idiots by the media. There's only so far you're going to be able to push somebody by insulting them over and over.
And that's why you're seeing the right, for the first time like ever, have organized protests. Tomorrow, it's the 27th, from what I understand, there's going to be protests in Hartford again. There's going to be protests in Nashville, Tennessee as well. I'm going to try to go to that. I'm going to try to get some good interviews, so guys, stay tuned for that. Let me get back to the agenda here so I can make sure that we're staying on track with our agenda.
Opening, Liberty Block.
Oh, yeah. So along with these protests, and I never would in a million years would have expected this to have originated, from what I can tell, in my home state of Connecticut, in the communist hellhole that is Connecticut. But apparently there's an underswell just starting right now to build of people who are basically trying to get businesses to join in and in a coordinated effort, just all open on May 1st, right? So the
is
earliest,
this where the gun shop guy I just saw was?
I don't honestly know.
There's a gun shop guy that said they're going to have to take him out feet first. That he's tired of it.
Well, there is a suit. There's a tailor in New York who is doing this right now, who was opened and said, "Come get me." In Connecticut, there is was it a baker? I forget what's happened. There's another one in Connecticut that just said, "Screw it, I'm opening. I have to eat, so arrest me. I don't care."
No, if he gets arrested, he gets free jail food. So
yeah.
Either way, he's either working his way through it, or we're going to take care of him.
what you're seeing now, and this is an article from the Liberty Block that this handsome young fellow named Michael Sonello wrote for the Liberty Block. What you're seeing now is these groups in Connecticut are just going to open on May 1st, and since it's not going to take me all that long, and since this article, is presented in a format that's perfectly reasonable, which will come up in a minute here, I'll just read the whole article for you guys as you're following along here. This is all information that was provided to me, by the way, under the condition of an anonymity. Okay. The rumblings of civil disobedience are beginning in Connecticut. Sources, part of a grassroots effort, confirmed to the Liberty Block plans to coordinate the reopening of businesses on May 1st in defiance of COVID-related mandatory shutdowns. A source leading the organization efforts, a paralegal who agreed to be quoted anonymously, told the Liberty Block, "I'm ready to lend my skills to helping organize a litigation front and a mutual support front." The source went on to explain reasons for concern. People are hemorrhaging a lot of money out here. The shutdown has damaged critical food supply and medical supply chains. Many businesses are not going to survive to May 20th, which is the earliest date in which mandates begin to relax. And if that's the case, they might as well open on the 1st.
Yeah.
Organizers of the protest claim Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont's executive actions have, in many cases, been illegally implemented. Organizers' legal grievances include the suspension of Freedom of Information Act requirements, unilateral modification to Medicare and Medicaid copayment requirements, the impairment of the obligation of contracts, the suspension of courts in criminal and juvenile cases, and the unilateral delay of criminal court proceedings without consent of the legislature. Referring to Connecticut General Statute 28-9, the source argues you need a man-made event to institute the policies he's instituting. Referring to more general complaints about Lamont's executive actions, he's going to create a litigation hellscape in the very near future. According to the source, the organization of a large legal action is in the works. The movement, yet unnamed, is only in the very beginning stages, but organizers hope that the reopening of Connecticut businesses will grow to a statewide event. Further demonstrations in Hartford are set for Monday, which we talked about. So our good friend Connor had a post on Facebook asking how long people thought people would put up with this. And if folks in Connecticut aren't putting up with this, then I think it answers the question. It sounds like...
a place like Connecticut goes down, how many others are going to go that way?
Yeah, and how many businesses are just going to say, screw it, we're going to open? And what are the police...
Especially as generally left-leaning and probably compliant with government mandates as Connecticut, I imagine, is.
Yeah. Oh, it's very left-leaning. So you've got 8 counties in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. There's New Haven County, there's Fairfield County, and there's Hartford County. I pointed those out because they kind of form like an elbow in Connecticut, where you go along the coast from New York City to 91 or to the Connecticut River, which is about halfway across Connecticut, and then you go north. Right. Okay. So Fairfield County is southwest extreme, which is basically suburbs of New York, and it moves along the coast to New Haven County, which brings you to about the center of Connecticut, and then Hartford County is directly north of New Haven County. In between, that's Litchfield County. Litchfield County is a pink county. Right. New London County is the far southeast corner of Connecticut. Windham and Tallinn County are the northeast corner of Connecticut. These counties aren't very blue. Tallinn and Windham County may even be pink. New London County is only a very light blue if it's a blue. Mm-hmm. 3 counties, which account for something like only 25% of the population, utterly dominate the politics in Connecticut. Utterly dominate it. And that's where your cities are in Connecticut. Right. So you asked how blue Connecticut was. Well, there's a lot of conservative voters in there. There's a lot of moderate Democrats in Connecticut.
Okay. So it's kind of a light blue, generally speaking.
Well, if you looked at it on a map, you'd say pretty light blue. But again, these 3 counties just utterly dominate the politics. So the last Republican governor we had was John Rowland, and he was the best governor we ever had. It's too bad he was a crook, and he was genuinely a crook. Right. Yeah,
it happens.
Yep, and
I'm assuming we kicked him out.
Oh, yep. He is completely out of Connecticut politics. I think he just got back on house arrest last. Because he's when I say he's a crook, he's like a repeat crook, right? Like
got it.
he got thrown out of office because he was a crook in Waterbury, and then it turns out he just was a crook again, so he got thrown into jail. And then when he got out of jail and was on house arrest, he did some other white collar crime that made him a crook when he was involved in some other political campaign organization thing. And I think he went to jail for that too. He legitimate crook, like actually was stealing money from taxpayers, crook. But otherwise, he was the best governor Connecticut had in all of my memory, and he was the last Republican governor with that, and that goes back 20 years.
It's not speaking much for Republicans. So.
Yeah, actually, I take that back. Jody Rell, I think, was a Republican in between that, but otherwise, it's just been nothing but blue. I can't remember the last time we had a Republican senator. I don't think we've had a congressman who was a Republican in
So you're
2
relatively
decades.
blue. So
it's one of these states where it's one of these states where Biden's definitely going to win. Like there's Trump has no hope.
It's more logical that people in Connecticut would tend to follow the rules than the government mandated rules like this, draconian rules, than somewhere like in Wyoming or Idaho.
Yeah, I mean,
up here.
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, I went on the road trip, as we spoke about, to the Northeast. Went to Concord, visited the family in Connecticut on the way down and on the way back. Mm-hmm. And when I came back here and went into the grocery store, it's totally different. It's totally different, right? Like, let me just share this story that I ran into. All right, so there's a town called Sturbridge, Massachusetts, in Massachusetts on the Connecticut-Massachusetts line. It doesn't really matter where exactly it is, but it's in Massachusetts.
All right.
It's one of these, like colonial towns where everyone dresses in old colonial clothes and puts on a fake.
I'd like that.
Yeah. It's a cool thing, right?
I need a tri-cut hat, so I need to go shopping there.
Yeah. It's one of these cool historical villages where everyone puts on a show and,
Okay.
Yeah. But because of that, it's kind of a tourist destination. So there's
no tourists right now yet.
So there's like 20 hotels in the area. It's not a big town at all. There's maybe 5,000 people live there, and there's like 20 huge hotels there. So my way of thinking was, all right, the way the timing's going to work out, that's about where I'm going to need to pull over and get a hotel room, right? Because that's about where I'm not going to be able to stay awake.
The Red Bull ran out at that point.
And I went. I before I left, I did my research. No big deal. Shouldn't have been a problem. Okay.
Right.
In getting from Cookeville, Tennessee to Sturbridge, in between that like 30-hour window, the governor of Massachusetts shut down all hotels except for what were called essential people or whatever. So there was one hotel that was open, and I went in there, falling asleep as I'm standing up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, right?
Okay.
And they were like, no, we can't serve you. I'm like, what do you mean you can't serve me? And they're like, oh, you're non-essential. I'm like, really?
Interesting.
So I guilt tripped them. I basically said, listen, so here's the option. It's too cold because it was like 22 that night for me to sleep in my car. So I'm going to get behind the wheel and just keep driving, right? Yeah. So if you don't give me one of your hundreds of open rooms, because nobody's staying here, because the people that are essential, these doctors and stuff that live where they work.
Yeah. They have no need for a hotel.
Right? Yeah. Right? And this was just a Motel 6. So it wasn't even like if somebody was like doing a long-term stay as like a contractor, they're not going to stay there.
I'm a doctor. I ain't staying at a dump like that.
Right? And I'm not trying to crap on Motel 6, but basically I said, listen.
I love Motel 6 because when I travel, I usually have my dog with me, and they're one of the only ones that let me have it.
Yeah. And I just guilt tripped them. I basically said, listen, I'm going to flip my car into a guardrail in the middle of the night when it's 22 degrees.
How dare
or you're going to let me stay at this place. And they said, all right, fine. Here, sign this slip saying you're essential. Right? When I went to a grocery store, I got chewed out in Connecticut because I wasn't following the arrows. I don't know if you have this, but now there's grocery stores in Connecticut where they have like arrows that they've taped onto the floors to direct traffic down the aisles.
We don't necessarily have the arrows, but most of the bigger stores, have two entrances on each side of the building, and they're now an in entrance and an out entrance, like your waiters that have to avoid crashing into each other or something.
Yeah, and every human being who was not in their home, every human being in Connecticut had a mask on. I come back to Cookeville. There's no arrows. The parking lots are full. Kroger, like maybe a third of the people in Kroger are wearing masks. All the employees are, of course, and like the elderly people in Kroger are, but basically no one else is. You know, I go to the local park and it's jam packed full of people, right? Because people are what the hell else are they going to do around here? You know, you can't give people cabin fever and expect them to not just shoot up schools. You know what I mean? Like that's what's going to happen. Like. You give people cabin fever and they do really terrible things.
Yes, they do. Like go to the park with their kids.
Like go to the park with their kids, which apparently.
Let's talk about it in a minute, but let's first talk about this probably real video. I wanted to throw a disclaimer in here because I brought this up to somebody that I trust that's got a pretty analytical mind. And he pointed out that it could have been a staged protest. I'm like, well, what the hell's a staged protest?
Yeah, that seems like an ad hoc.
He's like, he's seen cases where like
they were trying to get caught.
Like the Democrats want to make the Republicans look bad, so they stage a thing that looks like a staged thing.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I get you. So we're going to throw a disclaimer real quick that maybe this is, maybe it isn't. I trust the lady because when you listen to this lady that you're about to hear, she sounds pretty genuine to me. She's fired up when she catches this.
Right. And what we can see from the video we'll talk about, it's a video that I think needs to be seen because we were accused of astroturfing. By the way, again, folks, astroturfing is when protesters are paid to show up to a protest. And the evidence that was shown for us was that the originators of the Facebook groups were coming from the same IP address. Yeah. And it's like that's not evidence of anything. So from what we can tell, this happened in Richmond. We know that. There was the rolling protest where people are basically driving by the state house and did your external speakers go on?
You're good.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. I lowered it. Oh, I see questions coming in.
Yeah. So sorry. So here's the video. And we'll talk about it when we get through with that.
Hi. So y'all can see what's this flag say here. It's definitely not. Oh, they're staging. I'm glad I got this. A stage media op. Look at that. Staged on Facebook Live. Don't publish it in your paper. You're a fraud. They just staged one of those medical pictures with the guy in his scrubs and got it on camera. You're a fake. You're a fake. You see that, you guys? That's the kind of crap I'm talking about. That's the kind. Yeah, take a picture. Freedom.
Right. So the left accuses us of astroturfing, and I don't know if it's paid, so we would need money. We would need a proof of an exchange of money. But
this almost looks to me like a news outlet needed a picture.
Yeah.
When I've watched it, I don't think we're not going to show the highlighted pictures where I do the freeze frames.
No, it doesn't show up well on the stream.
Send us a message to the Liberty Block if anybody's interested. I pulled off about 8 images with the timestamps where I think I've built a pretty convincing case that this was planned from the beginning. There are 2 cameramen in this video. You may not catch it this first time through, but if you rewatch the video, there are 2 cameramen. The first one, she walks by in the very beginning, so it's on her left. And then the second one, if you watch close, is to the right of the so-called nurse. Yeah. And they're circling. I even suspect that the car was involved. Mysteriously, they had a Trump flag
that's going too far. That's taking it.
I don't know.
Like the car was stopped at a red light. I think this is what I saw. I saw 2 cameramen adjacent to this medical worker who had a sign, who went right in front of exactly where you would go for a photo op, and then these 2 cameramen, one of whom was carrying a dual set of Canon EOS Rs. I don't know which generation it was. It looked like it was at least 5th generation. Canon EOS R camera bodies are like $5,000 cameras,
professional grade. He'd
be a
professional
and those lenses were the EF lenses. So those lenses were the autofocus EF lenses. These are like $1,000 lenses, and he had at least two cameras with $2,000 lenses on them. This is a $12,000 setup. You don't have this setup unless you're a zillionaire or unless you're doing it as part of your work.
You're getting it from your employer. You're getting that per diem that pays for it.
Right, and it wasn't like
they've provided it.
Here's the thing: they didn't walk out at exactly the same time. The cameraman went out first, so you can't even make the argument that they were all just waiting for the crosswalk sign to go through.
Yeah, they wanted to see
because
what happened,
the camera guy went first so that the other guy could set up, and then he could get exactly the right angles. And you can see what happens. Like the cameraman goes immediately to where you would take a picture for that person in that position, and he doesn't turn around and take a picture of the crowd of cars. He's facing the whole time. He's facing exactly where that guy in the scrubs was going to be.
Who the subject of his photo was going to be.
So this isn't real evidence that it's staged, but my God, if you were ever going to see a staged protest, this is what counter protest. I mean, this is what it would look like. That's exactly what it would look like.
What gets me is they stop on the very next corner. All three of them, if you watch the very end of the video, all three of them are on the corner, turned around like they're waiting to go back again to do it all over again.
Which could well be the case.
You had your protest. Why? You have your photo. What do you need? You need a better photo at this point.
Yeah. So
you want to have your backup shots in case those first shots don't turn out.
So if the left wanted to accuse us of astroturfing, let's start with this. Start with a staged protest. Start with somebody telling somebody to go protest who is clearly in it for something other than the protest itself. Like, let's start. If you guys want to accuse us of astroturfing these protests, let's start with at least that, right? And then we'll worry about the money exchange.
So here's something real quick that I thought of. It's not really in here, but it is related to this, specifically nurses. So I think it was last weekend we had protests down at our state capitol here in Phoenix. There's a now famous locally, at least, of a nurse standing and defending this building like this with the mask on. There's another nurse on this side, and there's a guy. It was 420 actually. So they're doing kind of a dual protest, and the nurse is like this. And so the point is that they're trying to make is that we're defending you against going in and hurting anybody. My question is, if the nurses are so critically vital and people are dying in the streets and in the aisles of the hospitals, why is that nurse out at a protest and not doing their job?
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a lot of nurses that got a lot of time on their hands to go to counter protest.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I get what they're trying to do. What they're really trying to do here is say that the nurses disagree with you. And the thing is that, like,
which they might. That's legitimate.
We had an interview with the organizer of the Reopen New Hampshire rally in Concord. Her name was Leah. Yep. Leah Pearl, right? We had an interview. It's on the Liberty Block. You guys can go check that out. You guys can share that video. Like, if you could share this video if you want to too, that would really help us out too. But we did that video. We did that interview. We engaged in good faith with these people. Guess what her profession is? She's a nurse. So yeah. So I if you want to play this game, then let's talk about the organizers of these events, because we've got one, and we know what she does for a living, and it's a perfect example in opposition to what the claim is. So again, you're going to get these protests, and you're going to get the protests like we suggested about May 1st, with these businesses open. And the question, of course, then is, what do you do when the police show up, right? And this happened. Was this in Michigan?
The mom getting arrested?
Yep.
This is Idaho.
I want
to say Boise. I know for sure.
No, Meridian. I remember this. It was in Meridian, which is about as right-leaning a city as you can imagine. I mean, it's in line with like Salt Lake City, or Provo, Utah. Actually, it's actually very much like Provo, Utah. But okay, so here's the headline: protesters surround cop's home after video showed him arrest mom for bringing kids to park. Okay, so there's a lot to digest with all of this, but let's go through as much of the article as I'm willing to go through, because honestly, this was a mess of an article, and in order to put this all together, I had to stitch. The stitching process was insane. I'm not even going to mention the website because screw that website. That website was such a disastrous mess with all the ads and pop-ups that were, coming up, which you won't see at thelibertyblock.com. And when you want to see a nice, clean article that you can read without interference and that takes up a good part of your screen, libertyblock.com. That's where you're going to get honest reporting. That's where you're going to get clear articles. Yes, it's going to come with an openly libertarian opinion perspective.
Yes.
Like we aren't CNN. We are willing to admit our bias, and that's what it is, right? So, Meridian, Idaho. Over the past several weeks, unrest around the country has grown due to the now 24 million jobless claims and politically motivated arbitrary nature of executive orders from coast to coast. True. Many people are upset and expressing that anger in the form of peaceful protests. True, all over the country. Naturally, as with any political statement, it has been crammed into the two-party information separator and has come out a divisive and polarizing hot mess. However, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Jeremy Kaufman would actually agree with you on that matter. For years, conservatives, I have to zoom in, of course, with my eyes here. For years, conservatives who claim to support small government have cheered on the police state, waving their blue line, American flags, and shaming those who advocate police accountability. All the while, America's law enforcement system amassed military-grade weaponry. Yes, of course they are. The citizens should have military-grade weaponry.
Yep.
So should the police. Voted themselves into a protected class, continue to enforce unconstitutional laws. We're going to get into this. The police are there to enforce the law, even if it's unconstitutional, and we'll get into that in a bit. But if you don't like that, then take out your phones. Take out your phones and film it, and we'll get into that more in a bit. And set the stage for total authoritarian control. When football players started taking knees, even the President of the United States used his pulpit to publicly shame them for daring to speak out against innocent minorities getting beaten and killed by cops. Okay, in that year, there were 16 unarmed minorities that were killed by cops that weren't clearly justified. That were still in the works of determining whether or not they were justified. Right. 16. 16 people die of snake bites a year in the U.S. 16. Okay. At one point,
you're just talking to minorities there. What they leave out is that there's a good segment of whites.
It's almost identical. Also, the number of unarmed whites that are killed by police is
right. Yeah,
the raw number is almost identical. And that's not even considering the fact that the number of interactions between police and minorities is way more than whites. So the relative percentage, the study came out actually a few years ago that I think it was from Harvard. If you're white, you are more likely to be shot by a police officer than if you're black. You're more likely, given controlled circumstances, given the same circumstances.
Which we won't get too heavily into that on this episode.
Right.
But
all right. So at one point, the hatred.
Yep.
At one point, the hatred for the police accountability activism became so overwhelming that so-called conservatives took to lighting their shoes on fire after Nike ran an ad with outspoken police brutality advocate Colin Kaepernick. Okay, we're going to get into this too. Time, manner, and place. The criticism Colin Kaepernick got from the right wasn't that he was protesting or the thing he claimed to be protesting. Right. It was that he was taking a knee during the national anthem.
Right.
Time, manner, and place. And that he was doing it on private property. With his team's name on it, right? Mm-hmm. So very different.
He's an employee at that point. He's subject to the rules of his contract.
Right. And the thing is, the right said this at the time. If the dude wanted to go out of the stadium and organize a protest in a suit and tie, do it. It's a very different thing to have the manner of your protest be kneeling during the national anthem, the time being during the national anthem, and the place being on a football field. Right, so time, manner, place. Anytime there was a protest against police brutality after one of the countless young black men were killed in this country, countless, by the way, I can count them, there were 16 that year, and 12 last year, by the way, many of whom were unarmed and innocent. Unarmed, we don't know, innocent means you need the actual case to go to trial, which in many cases they didn't. These conservatives took to their social media podiums and advocated running them down in the streets. No, they didn't. For exercising their First Amendment rights. Again, no and no. We talked about this, time, manner, place. In a few instances, they actually did run police brutality protesters. No. In a few instances, no. One guy, one time, in one city, in one protest, where his motivations were unclear, ran down a group of people in the middle of a protest. And it's unclear who he was actually aiming for and why he was driving through that protest. Right? It was just a dude in a car who killed people. We know he did it on purpose. That's enough for murder one. That's enough for murder one. That's all the state's going to care about. That's all they're going to present. Okay. But in few instances, they actually did run over police brutality protesters, and at one point, they even tried to make it legal to do so. Not true. For years, this duality existed, and for years, the right establishment granted role was to unquestioningly cheer on the police state until now. No, absolutely not. It was to call out bad actors. Like, was the one ever? There was a guy, I was like outside Virginia Tech or something like that. I forget who he shot down, but there was a police officer that, screw it, I'll do one. In my hometown in New Milford, Connecticut, there was a police officer that shot a black guy or a minority of some sort. Actually, I don't remember if he was a minority. Either case, shot a guy walking away from him, right? In the back, like 6 times, who was unarmed and didn't appear to have, it didn't even appear to have violated the law at the time. No warrants out for his arrest. Okay. Bad actor. Okay. Yeah. So there was a police officer in New Milford who was going to break up a kegger up on Candlewood Mountain. And I won't name the poor girl's name. But there was a girl who was staying late, I think for like band practice or something at the high school, and pulled out of the stoplight like she normally would and got hit by a police officer doing, from the autopsy, at least 90 miles an hour. 90 miles an hour to go break up this kegger, because there was underage drinking.
Wow.
Like
so
teenagers
girl
drinking.
Dead over a kegger.
Girl dead over a kegger. That guy, because he was going so fast at such a dangerous intersection and blew a red light. Blew the red light.
Right.
Go to jail. Go to jail for negligent homicide. Fine.
Yeah.
It's not actual homicide. It's vehicular manslaughter. I'd call it vehicular manslaughter, what I'd charge him with. And go to jail. Fine. You spend 15 years in jail. For years, this duality existed for years. 4 years. This duality has existed, and 4 years. The rights establishment granted role was to unquestionably cheer on the police state until now. No. We now find ourselves in an extremely rare time in which we see the outspoken conservatives and those on the right protesting police. Okay, so this dumps on the police. Okay, and the entire Twitter thread has devoted to conservatives calling out one of their own who said the cops arresting people for playing in parks, handing out food, are just doing their jobs. Okay. Many of the Nazis killing Jews I'm sorry, I can't read this because there's something in my way. I have to stop here because this is reductio ad Hitlerium. The short version is, and there's a video of this. We're not going to show it. It's not important. We can describe it pretty accurately. A woman got arrested for going to a park and playing on the playground where she wasn't allowed.
When you watch the video, you could probably look up Idaho mom getting arrested and see it pretty clear. It's probably, I think, 15, 20-minute video. Yeah. And there's a lot of people there. It's not like the dad throwing the ball for the daughters that we've heard about.
No.
There's dozens of people there, and they don't appear to be social distancing in most situations. They're acting like we acted 1 year ago today.
Yep. And, there might be a case for doing that. But, if you're going to clearly violate the law, as unjust as it might be, if you're going to clearly violate the law right in front of the police, right?
Yeah,
then what are they supposed to do?
Belligerent about it. These were just people taking their kids out. They've been locked up for a month now,
and it sucks. I agree. It's an unjust law. But what are the police supposed to do when this stuff happens?
Right.
You can't expect them to shed a blind eye on this sort of thing. Otherwise, you get what we have in Portland. And I don't think either of us stand for what's happened in Portland, where the police have just let Antifa completely overrun their city.
The motorcycle cop was sitting a block away, and when somebody asked him, he said, "We're told not to go down there."
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the police actually did as good a job as you can expect them to do in this situation because they were peaceful, they were kind. When the people started yelling at them, they engaged honestly with them. It wasn't like they were screaming.
And they were polite, relatively polite to her. They let her hand her phone off and let her make sure that the neighbor was going to be able to take care of her kids. They didn't call CPS to take the kids into custody. They let the neighbor take them.
Right.
So yeah, they were relatively behaved as well as they could.
I don't know what more you could ask for the police in this situation. Without being completely unprincipled on the matter, I don't know what more you could have asked for in the police in this matter. I mean,
my only issue, I still have a hard time watching the video and figuring why she was picked. She was the only one arrested from what I saw.
Yeah,
I didn't see what she did any different from others other than maybe get a little sassy.
Are you familiar with the principle of charity?
Probably not.
Okay, so the principle of charity is it's an argument in argumentative logic. The principle of charity is a heuristic guideline that suggests that when somebody says something, you should interpret it, or when you see something happening, you should extend an olive branch of charity. You should interpret it in the most charitable. You should interpret somebody's intentions in the most charitable manner possible, right? Okay. And there are some times where the most charitable interpretation of somebody's intentions is still you're a scumbag. Right, like the people. There's no way to interpret the Cheshire Home invasion where repeated ex-convicts raped and murdered an entire family and burned them alive. There's no way, and also robbed them and robbed the bank at the same time and got caught red-handed. There's no way to charitably interpret that as them doing anything other than what we saw them do, right? But I think a charitable interpretation for this situation would be that if the cops themselves disagree with the law, they arrest one person. And if they arrest one person, rather than arresting the whole gang of them, then we got to deal with all these people in jail. If they arrest one person, they should arrest a mom. And here's why you should arrest a mom. If you arrest a mom, everyone around them is pulling out their phones. Every single person around there is pulling out their phones, and the governor of Idaho is going to get pitchforks and torches at his doorstep. That
makes some sense, yeah.
So, I might be stretching, but I'm trying to be as charitable as I can.
Logic to it, yeah.
Right, like if you're a police officer and you hate this law, kindly, you have to be kind about it. Kindly go out to a situation like this where it's just like right in your face, like where it's just such obvious violation of an unjust law, and arrest a mom, straight up. Just arrest him. Make sure it's a white mom. Make sure it's a white mom. So
you're suggesting that his motivation could have been because he disagrees with it.
Easily. It's Idaho.
The one that would cause the most furor and therefore get his bosses off his back to make the arrest next time.
Right. And, I might be reading into it. I might be reading into it.
But there could be, because like I said, that she's the only one from what I can see that was taken down. They were real polite to her, let her hand the phone off and the kids on. I mean, when's the last time you saw a kid arrest a parent and not call Child Protective Services?
Right.
The cops literally let the neighbor take the kid home. No questions.
Yep. And it's Idaho. Like Meridian, Idaho. I can't believe that police officers in Meridian, Idaho are in support of laws like this. I can't believe it. There's right, like
okay, and our founder and a couple other people might disagree because we know what some of their views on the police are. That kind of plays into something I picked up in the video. I didn't like it at the time. They were asking the cop, "Do you think this is legitimate?" This that, and well, I have to follow the law written. And at first, my reaction was, "Well, the Nuremberg defense doesn't really hold up."
No, it doesn't.
What you're now saying plays into it because he's several times said, my personal opinion doesn't matter right now. I put the badge on this morning. Right. And he repeats that over and over. And it did catch my eye and made me think maybe he's saying, I absolutely agree with you, but I have to do this. And then again, maybe he picked the mom because he knows that's going to cause the shit show that might make it so I don't have to do this again.
Right. Here's the thing. If this story happened in Philadelphia, the cop is probably a piece of shit. If this was DC, or if this was Washington, D.C., the cop is probably a piece of shit.
Right.
Right? Like, I just have a hard time believing this with Meridian, Idaho. I mean,
no, there's some sense there. I can see what you're saying.
There are no Democrats in Meridian, Idaho. Like, I just have a hard time
They
believing
don't,
that.
they
So-
don't admit it in public if they are.
Yeah. So what wound up happening was demonstrators went to this guy's house, the individual police officer's house, and this I think is wrong. It was wrong for protesters to go bang on Tucker Carlson's door. It's wrong for protesters to go to the police officer's doorstep. They should go to the governor's doorstep. And I'm 100% in favor of that. You want to go to the governor, not to his house's doorstep, but to the governor's
Don't go to
office.
the guy doing his job that could have made the situation a lot worse. Again, I go to CPS. I kind of have a personal history on having to deal with CPS, and so that's why I say,
Yeah,
you could
and-
easily be a dick and go to CPS, and he didn't do it. So
Right,
I do
and-
see some charity
and-
on his part.
And I get it that the Nuremberg defense doesn't always work. This also isn't the Nuremberg trials. Like what we're comparing.
No, my gut
Yeah.
reaction was, you don't use the words "I'm just doing my job."
Right, it sucks. It's a crappy
you can't
defense.
say that.
It's a crappy
Yeah,
defense, but
make
sometimes
make up a story. Hey, ma'am, this is why I have to do it. Give her a story. Don't say, "Oh, well, I put the badge on, so boop, that's it."
yeah, I know, and I think that's too much to ask.
He
I-
could have picked his words better, because the
Yeah.
rest of his actions in that arrest seemed to be pretty charitable toward helping the lady the best he could.
So here's my stance. I think Dan agrees with me. He can opine on this. Like, if you're gonna go out and completely violate the law to that ridiculous of an extent, then expect to get arrested and do like Gandhi did. Gandhi
happened.
let the law be laid down on him, and the press came in and covered it, and that's what got these laws changed. You all have cameras. You all are journalists.
Yeah.
Take the
Oh
cameras.
yeah, citizen journalism.
Yep. And if you don't think that the governor of Idaho got bombarded, if you think the governor of Idaho did not then get bombarded with pitchforks and torches, with emails, phone calls, letters, angry Facebook posts, if you don't think he got bombarded, you're wrong, because that video came out, and I'm certain that he never heard the end of it. So
To transition, speaking of governors and
Yeah, 'cause we're-
unconstitutional things, do you want to talk about Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, and some of the property rights violations that she's committed, and the takings without due process that she committed?
yeah, you know what, Dan? I'm going to have to eat
next week.
No, let's do it, because I'm going to have to eat a ton of crow, and I think you've got a lot
Okay.
to say about this. So
'Cause,
I'm just going to read. I'm just going to read.
2 weeks ago, you said she
Yeah.
was probably the favorite for Joe Biden to pick for vice president. I truly hope he does.
Oh
at
my
this-
God.
After this, so
Yeah, I was wrong.
at
this
the time
would
you
be
may
a
have
bad
been right.
idea.
Since then, this is politics. Politics
Yeah,
can
so-
change like that.
So I'll just read the headline. Dan, you can talk. You can summarize. Michigan legislature going into session to revoke Governor Whitmer's emergency powers. I couldn't have possibly been more wrong.
Yeah, she has taken quite a step. So, what? Just a couple highlights, because we're short on time. Her. I guess a lot of people in Michigan own vacation property on the Upper Peninsula and the top of the Mitten, is what I gather they call it, which is basically the transition up to the Upper Peninsula. If you own a second house, her stay-at-home order, you can get in your car in suburban Detroit in the garage, not have a full tank of gas, not have any other interaction, drive up to your second house north, and you've just violated her law that she passed herself without the legislature being involved, to my understanding, because you're not even allowed to visit your second house under her order. A house you fully own, you cannot go to your own property, having zero other interaction with anybody else. And not only that, you can't go to yours, but if me in Arizona, if I had a vacation house up there, she would welcome me to my vacation house. Of course, I go into quarantine the second I get there. I'm not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
And if I want to plant a tomato seed while I'm there, I cannot do that because she banned seed sales.
Yeah.
Seeds are roped off in Michigan.
Yeah. So the legislature has already brought to the table and is probably going to pass a bill that would revoke all of her emergency powers.
Which I think Pennsylvania's doing to Wolf also.
Yeah, she couldn't
Because
possibly.
he's overstepped.
Yeah, the conservative vote it couldn't possibly be more motivated in Michigan. If she gets the VP nomination, they're going to lose that major swing state for sure, because the Republicans are going to get out, and the Libertarians and even many moderate Democrats are going to get out and say, no, we're voting for Trump in spite of it's a spite vote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the silly thing, Dan, is that we talked about this last night, like. Going to an open space, going to your rural cabin up in the Upper Peninsula, getting some sunlight, getting out, getting some exercise. These are all things that combat the disease.
Yeah.
And she's made it illegal.
Yeah. She wants to pack you in. And like I said, if I, as an Arizonan, owned a house up there, so what she's doing is saying, I'm willing to pack more people into my state than let people in my state spread out and reduce the density of people in my state. I'd rather increase that density.
Yeah, the exact opposite of what all of the doctors have been telling us all along will help mitigate the adverse effects of this disease. And just real quick, the story I have to tell, when this news first broke, we'll call her a friend who lives in New York City. And I know we're starting to run late here, so I'll just do this as quick as I can. She lives in New York City. Her whole apartment's 400 square feet. It's a studio apartment, so it's all one room. It's basically just an oversized bedroom. If you don't think she was going to get cabin fever in, Manhattan, because she lives in Manhattan, and not a rural part of Manhattan, if you can call any part of Manhattan rural, like in a giant apartment building that shares a wall with another giant apartment building that shares a wall with another giant apartment building, right? And her basically the only way she was going to be able to get around, because it's Manhattan, she doesn't own a car, is the subways, right? Like, she made the smart choice and temporarily moved in with her parents out in the suburbs of Boston, right?
Okay.
She won't get cabin fever. The outbreak isn't nearly as bad there. She can still do her work from remotely. And, she's able to get outside, which is good. So, smart move, things that would have been banned by Gretchen Whitmer. Yeah. Yep. So, I eat crow. Absolutely. I eat crow. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually hope she gets the VP nomination.
Yeah, go ahead and nominate her.
That'll actually help.
All right. So do we have a lot of questions here in Q&A, or do we have time for the bonus topic?
I want to give shout outs. We're getting a few more viewers. Several friends of mine. I have my friend Lori, my friend Christine, and my friend Michael, who all have showed up tonight, and we appreciate that. We're trying to grow this. I'm sure he's a friend of somebody. I don't know Tyler Saggart. I'm sure one of the Liberty Black people know him for sure. He's chimed in quite a bit. He's actually been laughing at quite a few of the things we've been saying. He's in agreement with us. Well, actually, everybody is.
I have a great question you want to talk about.
What?
Okay, so this news
talking about my girlfriend over my shoulder?
No, this is actually from Q&A. This is actually from Q&A.
From your YouTube? Is this from YouTube?
No, actually, I think the stream on YouTube crashed, which is too bad. Okay. But I'm going to try to transition away from YouTube anyway, because screw that platform. But okay. All right, so this question is asked by Lori Ann. What do we know about Kim Jong-un? Does he have corona? I actually am really well informed about this. Okay.
I've heard he's vegetative. I've also heard he's dead.
Okay. I've heard both. And what I know is that we can't trust our sources in North Korea. No. Sadly, the best source for news coming from North Korea is China.
China, yeah.
Yeah, because they're the only people that can actually get the information, and anything that comes out of North Korea is bullshit. So,
just like China lied to us from the beginning on Corona. So
okay, so this news broke last night. That's why I didn't put it on our agenda, because it was too recent for me to get it ready for the stream. Okay, so on April 15th, there's a major North Korean holiday, right? And I don't know what the holiday is. It's North Korea. It's probably
April 15th.
April 15th. It's probably
they were celebrating the American government taking money from its own citizens.
Yeah. American probably Pig Dog Day or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Some major celebration. It's like, apparently it's the biggest holiday of the year for North Korea. And he wasn't there. The supreme dictator wasn't there, which was big news in North Korea. So that's
what caught everyone's attention.
That's what caught everyone's attention.
Okay.
So the word from North Korea, and again, we can't confirm this with anything, is that they're claiming he was having heart surgery. Okay. Because North Korea is so sheltered from the rest of the world, we have no data about coronavirus from that country. It's the only country in the world we have just no data whatsoever.
It's like the most filtered country as far as news leaving.
Yeah, so we have it could well be that since it's so sheltered, that coronavirus never got in. Because they don't allow people into their country.
Yeah, no, it's locked.
They don't allow people in, and they definitely don't allow people out. So it's entirely possible that Corona never made it into their country, and that he never got coronavirus. He also wasn't traveling at the time because he's just he's a bowling ball. He doesn't like to move. Yeah, Fat Rocket Man as a certain president likes to call him.
Back before they were BFFs.
Yeah. So there's a still image that has come out of him. Do you know the scene from Sleeping Beauty at the very end when she's like, behind the glass laying down and the prince is about to like swoop over and kiss her on the cheek or whatever and wake her up?
Tell me Donald Trump's not swooping in the kiss of Kim Jong.
No, but there's that image of Sleeping Beauty, right? Where she's just like on the table asleep. Mm-hmm. There's kind of a similar image that has leaked from North Korea that we can confirm. It's like the only bit of news we can confirm is real and really came out over the last week or two.
We know it's him and he's laying
there.
We
know it's him. We know he's laying there.
You knew how many pictures of me drunk passed out there were out there in the world?
It's not that. It's definitely not that. It's definitely not that. Are there
flies around him?
He's got a bouquet of roses on his chest.
Oh, that ain't good.
Yeah. So I would suggest that could be him in a coma. There is some information leaking that he's in a coma. The information
I did hear vegetative state before I heard China was sending people in. The Japan report was vegetative state.
So the story is that China sent in 5 or 6 surgeons to do the open heart surgery.
Right.
That's from North Korea. That China hasn't confirmed that. Okay. And it's pathetic that we have to rely on China confirming this information, but that's where we are. Welcome to North Korea 2020, folks. Okay, yeah. So it's unclear if he's dead. It's unclear if he's in a coma. It appears that he is in some sort of life-threatening or dead condition.
Or just waiting for a prince to kiss him.
Good Lord. You want to take the ball? You want to bring back our supreme dictator yeah. So the next person in succession appears to be his slightly younger sister, who's kind of hot. Yeah, she's kind of attractive.
Is she the one that's the head of the intelligence service or whatever?
If you want to call it that, it's called in Korean the propaganda
intelligence.
Yeah. It's called like the division of propaganda or something like that.
I saw her way back, and I thought the same thing. Is she the one that they think was involved in one of the assassination?
Yes.
Things. Okay, I did see
yes.
her.
So folks understand who she is. It's Kim Yo Jong.
Oh God, I wish.
If I have that right, Kim Yo Jong, I think. She has. So you guys understand who she is. She has an older brother who is basically a Lothario. He wants nothing to do with politics. He's just a Dionysius out there.
He's an artist. He wants to paint
and drink and hang out with women and
raise his koi pond and
yeah. And they've all grown up in the lap of luxury. They all went to Switzerland for a very sheltered university experience. So they all do actually speak English in a number of different languages. Apparently, she is the most educated of all of them by far.
Okay.
But she has been fully indoctrinated in the Kim way and has been right with Kim Jong-un with every murder that he's conducted. She's his right-hand woman.
So the two of them were a team, essentially.
Yes.
And came up with here's who goes, and you take care of it, and I'll cover it up.
From what we can gather, she is going to be, you would expect her to be, from what we know about the relationship, they were besties. Okay. So from what we know about their relationship, from what we know, she is the heir apparent. From what we know about how she handled her section of the government, we can expect her to be at least as ruthless as Kim Jong-un, possibly as ruthless as his father, which was even worse. So, not good news that she's the heir apparent.
But, I see a positive in this.
Go for it.
I haven't figured out how they do it yet, but now we have the script for the interview too.
Oh, for God's sake.
It needs to be done. I mean, after that first one was a classic, and it'll only get better as
it was a
gets older.
classic. Okay, we have some
was
disagreement.
Awesome. The interview was awesome.
All right. I'll have to do
Come
it. We'll
on,
have to do it.
Katy
We'll have to.
Perry to tanks dropping from the sky.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do a rewatching or something. Maybe we can have that be one of our shows one time when we're completely out of topics to talk about, or we're sick about talking about Corona. We'll get our Coronas out and we'll have an hour-long episode where the two of us watch that.
They hate us because they ain't us.
Yeah. All right. So do we have any other questions from the crowd?
For bonus? We did have. Let's see. Tyler says that Donald Trump sent Kim too many Big Macs. So that's actually probably a really good point.
That's probably true.
And Dennis Rodman. Maybe Dennis Rodman was actually a CIA plant. Some Big Macs.
I mean, Men in Black called him an alien, an extraterrestrial. So, one conspiracy theory seems as plausible to me as the other.
Somebody named Elliot Axman says that movie was awesome. So I think you're outvoted.
Oh, God.
We'll see. We'll see. A few more people may chime in.
All right. Maybe we'll all have to break our COVID and fly into somewhere in the middle, fly into Omaha or something and have a watch party all together, and we'll get the cameras set up and
do that, yeah.
Do
that.
Yeah. How much trouble do you want to?
So bonus topic? Do we want to talk about my girl over here?
I really do. Do we have? We're way over. Let's do it. Screw it. Let's do it. Okay.
It'll take a minute. Come on. She needs the love.
Okay, so if this was a meme, we would have saved it for tomorrow's dumb meme of the week. By the way, that'll be posted 7:00 tomorrow night. We are still taking suggestions. I gotta hit the road tomorrow morning. So it won't be for much longer that we're taking suggestions for dumb meme of the week from the left. But
and what you want them to do is after you post the dumb meme of the week, they need to make comments about it.
Yep.
And then you'll read the comments during the broadcast on Wednesday.
Yep, Wednesday night we'll get on video. Okay. But yeah, do we need to provide context? Do we need to provide context, or can you just roll the tape?
On my and her relationship, no, that speaks for itself. It's love.
Yeah, love it first vomit.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks,
she dances good.
Here's your obligatory dumb AOC video.
Security in our lives.
Oh, son of a bitch!
You're torpedoing me. I told her she was going to get some airtime tonight, and now you're like, come on, it crashed on me. Oh, is she back?
She might be.
No, I'm watching a delayed feed here. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's clear the. Yeah, I know. Sorry. I know. My bad. We're gonna just use the loop method from now on instead of the lockout method. All right, let's give this one last try. See if we can't get it to.
A lot that we could be doing right now, but ultimately, I think when we talk about this idea of reopening society, only in America does the president, when the president tweets about liberation, does he mean go back to work? When we, have this discussion about going back or reopening, I think a lot of people should just say, no, we're not going back to that. We're not going back to working 70-hour weeks just so that we could put food on the table and not even feel any sort of semblance of security in our lives. There's a lot that we could be doing.
Yep, there's our Alex from the Bronx. Yeah. Yes. Do you even want to talk about it? Do you even want to talk about it?
Yeah? How many things to tear apart in a 20-second? she gives you 40 seconds worth of stuff to tear apart in 20 seconds.
This, like I said, if this was a meme, this would be the meme of the week without a doubt. I wouldn't even be taking suggestions. I wouldn't even be taking suggestions.
I don't want to work 65-hour weeks to put food on the table, because a 40-hour week will put more food on the table.
Only in Trump's America would liberty mean going back to work.
How dare you? Where's Greta when we need her? How dare you?
Joe Biden should nominate. She's not old enough legally, but Joe Biden should nominate AOC to be his running mate. God, what a like the
I don't
number
know.
of
Has
the number
that
of
been
video clips.
decided?
No,
Has
I'm sure it
been
has.
decided on the VP pick.
I'm sure the DNC's already figured it out,
I
but
still have to look.
not
into,
publicly.
Yeah.
they're
I
not.
don't think you would want to put her up there for real. I don't think they.
I mean,
She inspires me because we have our wine and IKEA nights.
yeah,
We assemble furniture and drink some wine. And
yeah.
whine
You're into
about
those.
Donald Trump wanting me to go back to work, and damn it, I am not going back to work for Donald Trump or anybody.
Yeah,
The
live off
food
the
will
government
show
dole.
up at my door. The food
Yep.
shows up at the door.
Yeah,
Somehow
Amazon.
it shows up.
Amazon is just this magical forest, right?
It is.
Where baton wielding leprechauns get to the end of their rainbow and just wing hurl the gold out and dispense it as they so please, right? That's exactly how economics works, and that's how Amazon works. They just conjure up the food from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's how it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, there's your econ lesson for the week.
there's your Boston
Yeah,
University econ
beautiful.
lesson for the week. Dan, I don't know what it is with you and Westchester girls. I've met. Oh yeah, she's from Westchester.
Westchester?
Yeah, I've
She's
met
not
plenty of
even from
them.
the Bronx. She's not even from the Bronx.
No, she's from Pound. I was about to curse. She's from Pound Ridge. She's from Pound Ridge.
Good to me. She's still good to me.
She's from
a good
like
dancer.
she's from like the wealthiest part of the world. Yep. And yeah. And her big job was I'm 25 and I'm female and I have these personalities, right? Therefore, all I have to do is go to a bar in the Bronx and make $30 an hour cash and not declare any of the income.
Okay, this is new to me. She's never. Why have you not said something before? She's gonna make me look bad over
This is all news to you, right? Like, man, you guys would make that. You guys would fail the Newlywed Game so bad.
Now I know why she is always just sticking a drink in my hand, saying, "Here, have this. Don't ask questions."
Yeah. Well, and on that note, I guess it's time to wrap things up here, folks. Our salute to Corona on our way out. Oh.
Last sip. It's timing.
I had a little more than you did. So, all right. So tomorrow we got there's a protest in
Multiple
Nashville
places, but-
that I'm going to hopefully be able to bring out the camera to and get some good content. So folks at home, look out for that from the Liberty Block. Dumb Meme of the Week is going to be posted tomorrow night, aiming for 7 p.m. So look out for that. Wednesday night, we've got 2 things coming out. That's going to be the Dumb Meme of the Week video, and I'm trying to get an interview arranged with a fellow who is going to talk to us about crypto, Corona, and crypto. So we got a jam-packed week for us coming up, and we probably gonna have some more articles as we always do. That's on the libertyblock.com, so check that out. So everyone that's joined with us, thank you so much for joining with us this
we
week.
Appreciate it. It was probably our best night so far. Let's keep it growing.
Yep, keep it growing. Keep sharing these videos, and we'll have some clips out from this streams for everyone that missed it later on this week. And until next week, we'll see you. We'll see you guys later.
Have a good one.
Night, folks.